With attacks on religious liberty in the U.S. on the rise, new polling suggests that a majority of Americans would oppose the Supreme Court forcing a marriage redefinition in all 50 states.
See, the court will be at a point of overreach if they impose a one-size-fits-all definition of marriage on the nation by redefining it.
The Family Research Council and a coalition of pro-family organizations released the results of a national survey of 800 registered voters conducted by WPA Opinion Research. Tony Perkins, the president of FRC, notes that the survey found that 61% of Americans agree that states and citizens should remain free to uphold marriage as the union of a man and a woman.
So the message to the court is, in a nation that's ruled by law, the way we change major policies like this, first, it goes through the legislative branch, but secondly, it's only done when we reach that broad social consensus.
According to the FRC, 81% of those polled for the survey agree that government should leave people free to follow their beliefs about marriage.
I do believe that we are going to see more Americans who are now beginning to see the consequences of this redefinition of marriage stand up and say enough is enough. And if a fight is what they want, a fight is what they'll get.
The polling results come as Aaron and Melissa Klein are being threatened with $150,000 in fines because of their biblical beliefs about marriage. They declined to bake a same-sex wedding cake. The firestorm that followed forced the Kleins to close their bakery in Oregon in September 2013.
I say that we can fight for our rights. I say that we should fight for our rights. And in a situation such as Melissa and myself, it's painfully evident that it's something we do need to do at this juncture.
Mr. Klein is driving a truck to make ends meet, but he and his wife want others to join the fight for religious liberty.
We need to call to action everybody that can to stand up and be a voice in this nation for people like Melissa and myself, because we are not where it ends. It's going to continue. It's going to continue on down the line.
And there's the case of Craig James, the former New England Patriot.
I'm going after Fox.
The Pro Bowler was fired by Fox Sports after the network learned that during a failed bid for the U.S. Senate seat in Texas, he expressed his views in support of natural biblical marriage.
We have to be as bold and tenacious as those who are trying to trample and close down the one-way street called religious freedom. If we don't, we will lose it.
Tony Perkins points out that the Kleins and Mr. James are not alone. Many Americans are victims of religious intolerance, in large part related to their biblical beliefs about marriage.
Men and women just simply in the marketplace, trying to live and practice their faith, are finding themselves in the middle of what I think may prove to be one of the most tumultuous cultural times in the history of our nation. And I think we're just on the front side of it.
And the head of the Family Research Council says legislative action is needed to protect people of faith. He tells IllinoisFamily.org News that he supports the Marriage and Religious Freedom Act that has been introduced in the U.S. House,
which would prohibit the federal government from discriminating against a business that was a contractor with the federal government or a nonprofit that might be getting a grant with the federal government from denying them that business or grant, or from taking away their 501c3 status, being the IRS taking it away because they have a natural view of marriage. The same thing, though, is going to happen at the state level, dealing with state government.
And Mr. Perkins says in the weeks before the Supreme Court announces its decision on same-sex marriage, Christians must be in prayer and they must speak out.
And so I think between now and when the court decides, we need to be speaking up very loudly, be very vocal on this issue.
Meantime, legislation introduced in the Illinois General Assembly would safeguard the right to privacy in the workplace. State Senate Bill 1553 would protect employees or prospective employees from workplace discrimination based on religious, philosophical, or political beliefs. For IllinoisFamily.org News, I'm Monty Larrick.